Hello, I'm Kathy Adams Clark, and let's look at these menu settings on the back of the Canon EOS R7 and how I've got my camera set, why I've got my camera set there, and hopefully this will get you started a little faster than having to dig through a lot of the manuals. So first of all, red menu, number 1, image quality. I've got it set on RAW. The dual pixel RAW is disabled at this point, and then the aspect ratio I've just left at 3.2, so no changes for that one. Second red menu, you see you've got exposure compensation set here at 0, but you can set this on the back of the camera when you're in your display mode, so there's really no reason to set it here. ISO settings are here. I've just left it the way it came out of the box. HDR, this is if you wanted to do high dynamic range, but we're not doing that right now. Auto lightning optimizer, you see where I've got it set. Not a real important feature for me. Highlight tone priority, once again, is turned off. It's not a real important feature for me. Auto flicker shoot, I've got it turned off. Once again, not real important for me straight out of the box. Next one, external speed light control. We're not controlling any speed lights right now, and so I've just got it set where it is. You'll notice that your metering mode is just showing what meter you're using, so that comes off of your back display panel when you're in the info, so we don't set that one here either. Next one, number 4, I have got white balance on auto. I don't have a custom white balance. Also, I don't have any white balance shift setting. It's not important for the way I shoot. Color space, Adobe RGB. This is important. We get more colors with Adobe RGB than we do with sRGB. Picture style on my menu on the back, I've got this set to auto. Clarity, I've got it just right in the middle, and I'm not using any creative filters when I'm shooting. I do that all stuff if I want to do it later on in Lightroom or Photoshop, so I don't have it set on the back of my camera. Red menu number 5, lens aberration correction. I'm just leaving this set where it is. Long exposure noise reduction, I definitely have this turned off. If you have it turned on, then what's going to happen is processing in the camera is going to reduce the noise after every photo, and so if you took a 30-second exposure, then it needs another 30 seconds to clean out the noise. So not something that I have set in the camera. High ISO speed noise reduction, you see where I've got it set, and dust delete data, I've just got that one set too. Number 6, multi-exposure is disabled because we're not on multi-exposure right now. Raw burst mode, disabled. Raw burst mode, by the way, is where the camera will take a bunch of photos before the bird takes off from the perch. And so if I am in a bird photography mode, and if that's the type of photography that I'm doing, then I will enable the raw burst mode. And this just allows those 20 or 30 photos to be taken before the bird takes off from the perch, and then once you actually push your finger down, it'll save the previous X number of photographs. So this is a good thing to have, the raw burst mode, in the event that you're taking pictures of birds flying off of perches. Focus bracketing, this is what we would do if we were taking multi-exposures to try to get maximum depth of field. So that's when I would enable focus bracketing. Regular run-of-the-mill photography, we leave it off. And then number 7 in the red menus, you see my drive mode. Once again, that's set by just the basic back of my camera settings. Interval timing is turned off. Bulb timer is turned off because we don't need this for all of our regular shooting. Silent shutter function is turned off, so there is some noise that I hear when the shutter goes off. If you were in a really, really quiet location like a church, or if you were sneaking up on white-tailed deer and you didn't want any noise, then you would turn off or you would turn on the silent shutter function. My shutter mode is in electronic first curtain, And then I also have release without a card turned off because most of the time I don't want that function. Red menu number 8, image stabilization mode. You see that it's turned on. The auto level I turn off. I just don't use it when I shoot. Some of you do, but I just don't use it. This is where we could go in and change some of our customized, our quick controls. You can do that if you want to, but we don't need to do it in the very beginning. Touch shutter. This would be where you touch the back of the screen and the shutter goes off. So there are times when that's useful, especially if you're photographing like macro or something like that. But for right now, it's disabled. Image review. Then it's just set just like the camera is out of the box. High-speed display is turned off, but if you are going to be firing in high speed a lot of times and you don't want that kind of jerky motion through the viewfinder, then you can turn this on. Metering timer, I want my back display panel and my camera to go to sleep after 8 seconds. Otherwise, you're going to eat up a lot of battery. So make sure that you turn this to about 8 seconds. And then red menu number 9, display simulation. I do want it to be an exposure simulation. I don't want it to be jerky through the viewfinder. If you find that you want to get that viewfinder simulation a little bit smoother, then you might want to play with the next one. And then shooting info display, the third one down, is what kind of information we've got inside the viewfinder. So check that one. The reverse display, I've got it turned on. The viewfinder display format, once again, play with that one, see what you want. And then the display performance, I want it to be FPS because I want that display to refresh itself repeatedly so that it looks like the display we used to get with digital SLR cameras. Number 10, this is where we've got our movie recording sizes, sound recording in the event that you want to do that, and then some other little video modes. And then also the shutter button function for movies. So just in case you're doing video, this is where your features are for that. That takes us into our pink menu, which is autofocus. And you see now that my autofocus operation is on servo. Once again, I set that on my back display panel on my camera. You don't necessarily need to go into a menu to set that. The autofocus area is also set just by simply pressing my autofocus function button, which is that button over on your right hand side, rectangle with the 9 dots in the middle of it. That is where I set that one. So setting the different autofocus areas, I really like that autofocus area 1. This is turning out to be one of my favorites on this camera. Subject tracking is on. Subject to detect is animals, because that's what I do mostly. You can do that for animals, you can do it for people, and the R7 does it for cars. So subject tracking, this is really an important thing. Eye detection, turn that on if you're photographing animals or birds. Lovely feature, absolutely lovely. Switching tracked subjects, I've got it set to 1 on this menu. This is again where you've got to kind of play around to see how you are shooting. Autofocus pink menu number 2 is case 2, continue to track subjects, ignoring possible obstacles like reeds and tree limbs. This is what I found is the best for me. And then you see that my tracking sensitivity on this one is a slight bit under, and then right at 0 on the 2 options that we are given. Once again, play around with this, see what works for you. This is what works for me in the way that I hold the camera and the way the camera works with me. Autofocus menu, pink menu number 3, one shot autofocus release prior. I've got it set to this little kind of half thing. Play around with it, see what works for you. I don't use one shot very often. Preview autofocus disabled. Lens drive when autofocus impossible, turn it to on, and auto assist beam firing, turn that one to on as well. Pink menu number 4, touch and drag autofocus settings. I've got that set to off. Limit autofocus areas. You notice that that's disabled as well. Sensitivity on the autofocus point selected. I haven't found a whole lot of need to play around with this. You might want to as you go along, but for right now, I'm not playing around with it a lot. I do like the autofocus to be linked to the orientation of the picture. That's the last item on this menu, so I think it's real worthwhile if you go vertical and horizontal. Autofocus menu number 5. MF peaking setting. What this means is when you're in manual focus, you are going to be able to choose red, yellow, or blue that will encircle your subject that is in focus. So when you're in manual focus, wherever your focus is, you will be able to see it encircled in red, yellow, or blue. You choose the colors. If you're doing red flowers, don't choose red, by the way. Just learn from me. If you're doing a sunset with a lot of yellow in it, don't choose yellow. But this enables you to find out where your focus is in the photo. As you're moving the focus ring on the lens, you'll see where your focus is turning to either red or yellow or blue, whatever color you choose. Now, this is a really cool feature. So once again, only when you're in manual focus are you going to see this, though. Your focus guide, I've got it turned off, and movie servo autofocus, I've got that enabled. These are just coming out of the box settings. Play with them. And then in your blue menu, I don't change a whole lot of these, so I'm just going to show you where I am right now. Most of this is just straight out of the box, and so I'm not doing photo book setups. I don't want it to process the RAWs. Playback filters, I don't play with any of those. I don't want it to resize, cropping, and this one type of RAW HEIF to JPEG conversion. I don't use this either. Slideshows, I don't do anything coming straight out of my camera. So these are areas where I just don't play a lot. That very last one, image jump with the back dial by 10. This means that if you have this activated, that when you're scrolling through your images using your it'll scoot ahead, forward, or backward by 10 images. I find that personally irritating, so I don't have it activated. Number 6 on this is good. Playback information, it's on the display panel on the back of your camera. We do want highlight alerts, that's the blinkies enabled. We do want the autofocus point displayed. This tells me where the camera focused versus where I wanted it to focus. The playback grid is off. Movie, play, counting, record time, I've just left that set by the factory. And HDMI, HDR output is off. Once again, if this is something that's important to you, then go in and do some research. Next one coming up is, there we go, Wi-Fi connection. I don't do a lot of Wi-Fi with this camera. If you do and you want your pictures sent over immediately to your cell phone, then read all the information on this so that you can get that enabled. I just tend not to use this very much the way that I shoot. And then over in your wrench menu, this is where you're going to set up your file numbering. We want that to be continuous. If you want any file naming, I don't worry about this. I rename later on. This is where you format your card. This is where we get the auto rotate so that you don't have to do this later on the computer. And then also where we set the date and the time. Remember when you're traveling to reset your date and time. Your language, your video system, your help text size. This is pretty handy to be able to use a larger font for your help text, because when you push the info button, that's when you get your help text. And then your mode guide is enabled. Number 3 on the wrench menu, I disabled my beep. I hate that beep, drives me totally crazy. So I turned that one off. And then also we've got some headphone settings and some power saving settings in your wrench menu number 3. Wrench menu number 4, this has got some good stuff in it. Screen viewfinder display. Most of the time auto's going to work just fine. How bright do you want your back display screen? Some of you who shoot concerts or in the dark, you might want to darken that brightness screen just a little bit. Viewfinder brightness, I've got it set on auto, but if you want it to be a little darker or a little lighter, you can set it here. Viewfinder color tone, this is also very interesting because some of you might find that the Viewfinder has a bit of a yellow cast or a bit of a blue cast, and you can play around with this to get to the point where your viewfinder looks natural for you. You can also how much you're going to magnify, and then once again your HDMI resolution if you happen to need that one. Wrench number 5, touch control. Some of you will be touching the back of the screen a lot. That's the way that you happen to shoot. Do you want it to be sensitive or not sensitive? Do you want your nose to be able to activate certain things on the back of the camera? Or do you want your nose to not be able to activate certain things on the back of the camera? This is where you can turn that touch control off, or you can reduce the sensitivity of it. Your multifunction lock key, you can set that if you want. Your manual and autofocus switch, you can enable that or not. Shutter at shutdown, do you want it to close? Sensor cleaning at shutdown, do you want it to clean the sensor? And then also choosing your USB connection app. Once again, something you might not use on an everyday basis, but some of you might. Resetting the camera, wrench number 6, sometimes that just happens, where you just want to reset it back to the way it came from the factory, especially if you're buying a used camera. You can go into some of your custom settings. You've got a battery info to how much power is in this battery. Copyright info is when you can type in your name so that your copyright information goes directly into every one of your photographs. And then certification logo and firmware update. When you want to update the firmware, this is the screen where you'll do it. And then under our orange menu, this is where we can get into some real geeky setting up of this camera. So make sure you know what you're doing before you start playing around with this. And just as a warning also, make sure before somebody else starts playing around with this that you know what they're doing. There might be functions in here that don't work for you, such as what direction we turn certain dials. So make sure before you start going into any of these custom settings that you know what's going on. But they're back here just in case you need them. I think you need to let these sit for a little while before going into these the first day. So we've got, different types of, if you want to limit your shutter range, I can't imagine why you would want to do that, or limit your aperture range. Once again, I can't imagine why you would want to do that. It's here. This is where we change the direction of the button of the dials. Do you want to go to the left or do you want to go to the right? I think this all depends on your brain and how your brain works. We can also clear all the customized settings in the event that your friend changed your camera around for you and you don't agree with it. This is where we can go in and clear that customized settings. Number 4, we can crop audio compression. You've got some other things here that just depends on whether you want them. They're here in your custom settings. And then once again, in Orange 5, you can clear all your custom functions and take this camera back to the way it came from the factory. Down here in the green menu, the very last one, is if you find that you're using something often, that you want to turn this on and turn this off frequently, then maybe you do it back here in your Add My Menu button. This is where you might want to throw in your HDR or your focus bracketing if you find that you are focus stacking a lot. Once again, wait for a little while, see how often you're using some of those menu settings, and then you can decide whether to add something to my menu on the back, number 6. So that is a brief overview of the menus on the back of the Canon R7. I hope that helped you a lot. If you've got any questions, feel free to post them below, and I look forward to seeing those questions. If you like this, of course, give me a thumbs up. And once again, I hope you come back, subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you in future videos. Thanks.